Hello everyone, we are from group 4. There are Cornelia, Farah, Inoi, and me, JJ. We want to present to you about what we discussing in group. There is a poem, what we analyze. The title of the poem is Drop a Pebble in the Water by James William Foley. And next, Farah and Inoi can read the poem to you.
Okay, in this slide, Inoi and myself would like to read the poem, and the title of the poem is Drop a Pebble into Water by James William Foley. Drop a pebble in the water, just a splash, and it is gone. But there's half 100 ripples circling on and on and on, spreading from the center, flowing on out to the sea. And there's no way of telling where the end is going to be. Drop a pebble in the water. In a minute, you forget. But there's little waves of flowing, and there's ripples circling yet. And those little waves of flowing to a great big wave have gone. You have disturbed a mighty river just by dropping in a stone. Drop an unkind word or careless. In a minute, it is gone. But there's half 100 ripples circling on and on and on. They keep spreading from the center as they go. And there's no way to stop them once you've started them to flow.
Drop an unkind word or careless. In a minute you forget. But there's little waves of flowing, and there's little ripples circling yet. And perhaps in some sad heart, a mighty wave of tears you've stirred, and disturbed alive was happy ere you dropped that unkind word. Drop a word of cheer and kindness, just a flash, and it is gone. But there's half 100 ripples circling on and on and on, bearing hope and joy and comfort on each splashing, dashing wave, till you wouldn't believe the volume of the one kind word you gave. Drop a word of cheer and kindness. In a minute you forget, but there's gladness still swelling, and there's joy circling yet. And you've rolled a wave of comfort, whose sweet music can be heard over miles and miles of water, just by dropping one kind word. Okay, next, Farah will explain to you the biography of the writer.
Thank you, Inoi. So in this slide, I'm gonna talk about the writer because we just read the poem, right? It seems unfair if we didn't talk about him. So as we know, the writer is James William Foley. He was born on 4th February 1874 in St. Louis, Missouri, United States of America. He became a newspaperman and a poet, and was a poet laureate of North Dakota. He wrote the poem Drop a Pebble in the Water for his two adolescent sons. James William Foley passed on at 65 years of age on 19 May 1939 in Los Angeles, California, United States of America. The next slide will be presented by JJ.
Okay, thank you, Farah. This slide I want to tell you guys about speaker and the purpose of this poem. The speaker is someone. It can be she, he, or they. And the purpose of James Ward this poem is to remind the readers that word has a tremendous impact for people in their life. Word can affect people in a lot of ways that they don't realize, and it can emotionally scare people too, even if we don't like to admit it. Okay, next slide, Miss Kornel.
Thank you, JJ. What kind of poem is directed to teach or state a message or moral lesson? For the figurative language, there are first, figurative language is onomatopoeia, drop and splash of sound of water. Second, euphemism is unkind word. The third figurative language is personification. There are two sentences here. But sentences here is, but there's gladness still a swelling, and there's joy a circling yet. Second sentences is, a great big wave have grown. The last figurative language is metaphor. Pebble is the words. Next. For the sound pattern, there are two here. First sound pattern is rhyme. AABB follows throughout the poem as the end of words of the first two lines go on, and the last words of the third and fourth line C and D rhyme with each other. The second sound pattern is anaphora. First, drop a pebble in the water. Second, it is gone. Third, in a minute you forget. But there's 100 ripples circling on and on and on. Fifth, but there's little waves of flowing, and there's ripples circling yet. And the last sentence is spreading from the center. Okay, the next slide will explain by Farah.
Thank you, Kornel. So as we already heard from Kornel, I'm going to talk about sound pattern as well. We want alliteration. The first one is sounds of S. The first sentence is spreading from the center. And the second one is, and perhaps in some sad heart, a mighty wave of tears you have stirred. The second sound is sound from Z. But there's little waves of flowing, and there's ripples circling yet. The last but not least is the sound of ang. We found it on splashing, dashing wave. The next of sound pattern is assonance. The first sentence is, in a minute it is gone. The second one is, they keep spreading from the center as they go. And there's no way to stop them once you start them to flow. So the next slide will be presented by Inoi.
Okay, thank you, Farah. So in this slide, I will explain about the paraphrase and the theme of the poem. So for the paraphrase, it is about someone teaches a lesson by making an analogy of the words we say to the pebble we drop to water. It will create a lot of ripples that refer to the effect of the word itself. The effect can be good or bad to the people who hear the word, depending on the intention of our words. And for the theme, this poem illustrates how the magnitude of our words can affect the lives we live and the lives of others in the society. Okay, that's all our analysis of the poem Drop a Pebble in the Water. So thank you so much for your attention.